And I assume we're live. Maybe we're not. Maybe it'll tell me. Yes, we're live now. So we can go completely nuts and you can start giggling or something because I did go through the infamous bloopers.
Yeah, it happens every now and then.
Oh, the traffic is bad. The
You know,
Ventura Freeway is blocked with cars. Oh, okay. It's like,
I am
okay.
living and loving my life to the last drop. I make it the best I can. I'm so fortunate to do what I do, so I make the most of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't goof up or whatnot, you it wouldn't be fun very long.
No, and I've gotten so many emails from viewers that are like, you were having us roar this morning when you were cracking up with your coworkers, or when you did that, I was dying. It's like, so I know I'm kind of making a difference.
So it's like wake up and laugh and make your day brighter.
Exactly. I always say I try to add a little bit of sunshine to every little bit of extra sunshine to every forecast, even when it's raining.
Or when the marine layer is hugging the shore.
Oh yes, that was this morning for our poor Central Coast.
Yeah, we're gonna have fog tonight. So, but yeah, but anyway, we'll start. Of course, all we have to do is just say welcome, because
Okay.
any theme song that I've picked doesn't seem to work well or whatever. So, but anyway, this is Polygon Issuance number 25. This is being done on September 12th, 2014. This is approximately 6 months since we've restarted this program. I'm Jeff Wilcox. I am hosting by myself because my co-host is at a high school football game. And he is freezing at a high school football game because currently the temperatures right now outside, as we're doing this at 7 o'clock Central Time, are in the 40s. And it's supposed to drop into the 30s. Lovely high school football weather. Whereas our guest is loving the sunshine and is in the 70s or 80s, and she is in California, and she probably loves to go down to the beach and go surfing or something.
I did for the first time a few weeks ago, so you're pretty accurate on that.
And so, but Meredith
Garfalo.
Garfalo. Sorry,
That's
see,
okay.
the first O is silent, isn't it?
Correct.
Say Garfalo. I knew
Garfalo.
I was going to say it wrong. So see, I've already made our guest mad. I've mispronounced her name. Maybe I should just call her Mary, and she'd get. Maybe I'll call her Rizzo because she played that as part of Grease in down in Florida. But anyway, I digress. So Meredith Garfalo, this Garfalo lady is here.
Hi.
So yeah, she does weather for like 60,000 stations out there because there's so many of them. I'd spend like an hour figuring out that she does it for KEYT, KCOY, I think, or not. I'm not sure. And KKFX or KKFK. I don't remember what it's called.
KKFX, but it's known around here as Fox 11.
Yeah, Fox 11 along the Central Coast in California, somewhere just north and west, about an hour to an hour and a half drive if the traffic isn't terrible from Los Angeles, roughly speaking. I'd
Yes.
assume.
The traffic can be very bad sometimes.
That means it's about a day drive if the traffic is really bad. So we have to find out how she got to California and is loving that. But first, we can look at the current weather. It's cold. Where she is, it's warm. It snowed in the northern states. It snowed where she used to work in Rapid City, I believe a couple inches up by Mount Rushmore, and it's only September, so and she won't see any snow for quite a while.
Unless I drive into the mountains, but I look forward to that.
I would assume the coastal mountains get some, but very most likely at the tippy top.
It is. It's an exciting thing when we actually can look at our live cam and see the little peaks with a little bit of snow. And we saw that a little bit last winter, but it was exciting for us because again, you have to drive in or hop a plane to Denver, which is like an hour flight. So
Or here, you just look outside when we get to wintertime. So, but we'll start out with this Meredith Garofalo. I'm going to say it right. By the end of the show, I'll probably say it wrong again. She went to Valparaiso, right? So you went to
correct.
Valpo.
Yes, I
So
did.
you're a crusader, and
Yes.
evident it is a crusader, right?
Yep. Valpo Crusaders.
Yeah, and she's crusading herself across the country. She interned at WGN, so she probably knows the ins and outs of Tom Skilling. And she also was in Rapid City for a time. She was in Florida for a time. Was it Fort Myers?
Sarasota.
Sarasota, close enough. In the
Yes.
same place. And then
Within an
she
hour.
then she decided she wanted to be a West Coast gal and went to Santa Barbara, where she is now. So the first thing we would ask is, what got you into this mess of weather to begin with?
Well, I was 3, and my mom actually was a survivor of the super outbreak in 1974, which until recently was the biggest tornado outbreak in history. And she actually saw the tornado touch down in the backyard. She volunteered for the Red Cross to help make a difference. And for some reason, she was telling me this when I was 3, and I was extremely fascinated. And I needed to have every weather book, every NOAA weather video on cassette possible. And I actually have to this day a Fisher Price recording giving a forecast, which is awesome, to warn people of approaching tornadoes. So I caught the weather bug young and just kind of really always followed through. And I think the best part for me was I wasn't just interested. I wanted to make a difference, and I liked helping people and keeping them informed so that way if there was a tornado or something coming, they would always know ahead of time, and I would be there as someone they could trust. So I followed my dream, and people wrote in my yearbooks all those years, and now it's actually funny to be in my career and look at my yearbook, see on the news, and I'm actually here.
Now, I'd ask, what tornado was it that your mother survived in?
It was the F5. Back
Xenia?
then. Xenia, correct.
Okay. Because I know you said you were from in and around Cleveland, so you can talk about any of the weather events that kind of shaped your childhood at that time in and around there and wherever you'd been in that time frame.
Well, I mean, I grew up in Cleveland, so the winter was always obvious. Blizzards, lake effect snow, cold weather, it wasn't fun. But when severe weather came, I was always fascinated, but I always would be the one, once the tornado warning hit, I'd be in the basement with all my stuffed animals under the ping pong table. Yet I was always so interested when I would see that little tornado. You know, it was before they had the advanced warning systems, and you'd have the little tornado in the corner of the TV. And so I grew up watching local news and the Weather Channel, and just always found myself, really excited when the weather changed. And you got a good change of weather when you were in Cleveland, because you'd have, like I said, the brutal winters, and then you have the spring and the severe weather. And it was great growing up because I kind of got a taste of everything except tropical weather, which prompted me partially to want to move to Florida because I really wanted the opportunity to see every type of weather that I could.
Or in some cases, this year, you could have been down in San Diego or over in Phoenix and seen remnants.
Yes, I know. I mean, we see the waves up here, but, there's always that part of me that does a little rain dance by myself and hoping that something will come up a little bit further and give us something, but we've not been that lucky so far.
So you ended up at Valpo after all this time. So what was it like at Valpo going through the meteorology program there?
It was great because you know what? It was an intense program. It challenged you every single day. I mean, none of my classes were easy. Every one of us would be in the library studying and working really hard to do well for the program. And, it was in depth. These teachers really knew what they were talking about. But for people that wanted to go into more of the news aspect. There was probably 95% of the class wanted to be scientists in NWS, and then you had the 5% like me that actually wanted to go into TV and news. And so at first, when I was starting off, we were in the basement of an old building, and it sucked. But then we were the first class actually in our brand new weather building, which is there now, which had beautiful windows. It was, we had an outdoor lab. We could launch weather balloons. It was so cool. And then they also added a studio where I was able to take weathercasting class my junior and senior year and really get to see what it was like being in front of the green screen and building maps and forecasting, and then also, which was great, learning the reporting side of it, because nowadays a lot of stations you work at, you have to do reports as well. It's not just straight weather when you're starting out.
Yeah, and especially in the small and medium-sized markets, that's the case, and a few even larger markets do that too, where it's kind of like to well round you, I would assume. So you're not just stuck in one. You're doing the weather. That's all you're doing, and you have to see it from like the other side, from like doing news and how the news department like does stuff, I'd assume.
Yeah, I was in Rapid City, and my chief meteorologist told me once that you will be so much more marketable to a news director because you're a great meteorologist, but then you can report and you can produce and you can sit at the anchor desk if needed. And not every meteorologist can do that, especially ones that have been in the business for a while before this whole saving money and, having someone, wear multiple hats came into place. So I really appreciate it. And, I kind of really enjoy doing reports as well because it gets me out in the community. I get to know the communities that I'm working for. And, it's kind of cool sometimes to put stuff together. And I've always been a one-woman band reporter, so everything that I put on the air mostly has been my work. So it teaches you a lot about hard work and just, your product.
So then it makes you more marketable for being a, a person that could do that, doing the weather. You could pretty much do a whole show outside of sports, perhaps, unless you wanted to start doing that. But I don't think you want to be that well rounded.
Well, if it was the Cleveland Browns, Indians, or the Cavs, I don't think I'd say no.
Well, yeah, that would be true. But so we'll go to the where you went first, which was COTA, KOTA, or COTA Territory News. I like always saying that. I don't know why they called it territory. Maybe you can ask. You were there about a year. Why did they call it that?
I think it was just propaganda, and the old people not old people, the old owners of the station actually, they just branded that as coded territory, and so, you know, I think that's just how it was, and we kind of went with it, and that's how we branded ourselves. Because, when you go to a station, every station has a brand. It's part of the propaganda. It's part of how the station makes itself known in the community. And so I kind of just fell into that, and so you just kind of go with it.
Now there, you pretty much had to cover about the western third or half of South Dakota, parts of Nebraska, parts of Wyoming, and I believe maybe a county in Montana. I'm not sure. So that's kind of like you're going from the high plains, the Badlands, the Black Hills, all these mountains, snow. You got it. It's like similar to where you are now, where you can have different weather in different places.
you know,
And I got about half of, maybe about a third of what you said because it started siloning on me. Hello? I'm wondering if something's broken. Well, that was weird. I don't think we've ever had that problem before. Maybe there was an earthquake. Maybe the solar storm has knocked out cell coverage. Because I see Meredith is still in here, but I can't hear her now. And now I see Meredith again.
I'm back. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Sometimes it's so spotty.
It's the solar storm. It has ruined.
It
It was
is.
either that or you had an earthquake.
Well, I guess I'll have to check after this. Hopefully not. I didn't feel anything. I just felt a breeze, so hopefully it's the solar storm.
Okay, so go back to the what you were trying to start saying when we were rudely interrupted by Ben.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It really taught me, to learn about multitasking because you'd have warnings in one county and then you'd have warnings in another county and then a completely different thing in another county. So, you really just you had to use everything you learned in college and put it together and forecast. And in addition, I'd have to normally do a report on something completely non-weather related the same day. So it definitely kept me on my toes.
So you would pretty much have, for example, you could have a snowstorm in the Black Hills, you could have severe weather on the far eastern part of the viewing area, or even in the far south, and
Correct.
then do a report on, say, a city council meeting or something.
Yeah.
That sounds incredibly well-rounded. Of course, in
Yes.
Rapid City, it's kind of, unlike with Rapid City, it's similar to, like, what I would say is it's a good starter market, more or less.
I do have to say, though, I am so fortunate for that job. I've talked to some kids, getting right out of college or studying, and they're always like, oh, I don't know about the reporting, but I do not regret having that experience and wearing like every single hat because I feel it's developed me as a professional. I know more about how the news business works. I just really feel like you have to get experience outside of weather, especially the way the market is going now. And if you don't, you are not going to make it far. You're going to stay somewhere or you're not going to be happy because, nowadays they could easily get rid of you and hire somebody else for a lot cheaper that can do everything.
And do you worry about that?
I'm at a point in my life where I try not to worry about the way things go, and what's meant to be is meant to be. And if I go in there and I do the best job every single day of my life, and I know that I'm fulfilling every requirement of my station, and they, for some reason, wanted to let me go, at least I know it wasn't me. Because I've
Yeah.
heard a lot of stories about people that have been at stations and then for some reason they just get let go. And it's like, it happens more than I think a lot of people realize. And you can look at it one way as a fault, or you can look at it as an opportunity to, go to the next way.
So then after Rapid City, you had the opportunity to finally get to Florida to
Yes.
see tropical weather.
I loved it. It was way too hot for me, so I really couldn't, or I did not want to live there permanently because I'm not a. I like the heat, but I like the heat when I'm laying at a pool and I'm relaxing after work. But I really did love tropical coverage. I was the youngest meteorologist at the station, so I was the one they always sent out to go live in the storm, and I really, really enjoyed it because a, I was using my credibility in the elements, and B, I was showing people, this is not safe. You should not be out here right now. And I really kind of get a rush when I get to be live. There's something about being in the elements that just puts me at ease.
Now, what tropical systems did you cover when you were down there?
Goodness, there were two tropical storms. I know Debbie was one of them. Tropical Storm Debbie. And then, there was the other one that was far, I cannot remember the names right now, but there was one other one, and it was kind of offshore, but it was such a big storm, we were getting the bands from it.
So pretty much you were lucky enough to not have to go into some big hurricane type thing where stuff would be
Correct.
flying at you.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people do it in reports, and honestly, as a meteorologist, I think that's dumb because if you put yourself in harm's way, like real harm's way, I think people look up to you and they think it's okay even if you say you're not, and in the end you really look like an idiot. And so I like to be on the safe end of things. You know, I like being extreme, I guess you could say, but then there's a part of it where you make sure you're safe first, and if you and your photographer are not safe, there's no reason to be out there.
So, but was there any other events down there that you can remember offhand? For example, severe weather or frost?
I did a lot of frost stories. And that was the cool thing, is I would be doing reports on how frost would affect things like plant businesses and fish farms and, you know, our local wildlife. So it was really cool because I would go out and do these reports on them, doing the whole reporting aspect, one-man banding. Then later that evening, I would be out with a photographer live and talking about it. I'd be at a fruit farm, and I would show the fruit hanging from the trees in frost. And it was really cool to be able to, you know, not just be up there on a map talking about the weather, but to actually be out there and showing its impacts. I really enjoyed that. And I also did, in addition to frost, I would do flooding. We had some flooding out there.
Mainly, say, flooding as in tidal flooding, or just flooding because it rained a lot and then it can't go out because it's fairly flat down there?
Correct, yeah. I mean, the coastal flooding was mostly from the tropical storms, but then the rest of the flooding was when I was actually, you know, it would be creeks or low-lying areas from, we would get these slow-moving storms when the sea breeze collision would happen, and you get these flat areas that would just, the creeks would fill up immediately, and it would just not be good for people.
And didn't with sea breezes there drive you somewhat nuts, because a sea breeze would be like a typical southern summertime thunderstorm where you know they're going to pop up, but you don't know where, and you don't know where the sea breezes are going to collide or blow up storms at that point.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously we have our future casts and stuff, but it wasn't always right, and, you know, so, yeah, I just, I don't know. It was frustrating, but I think every meteorologist goes through a frustrating point because, you know, we don't know everything, and you can have a really good instinct, but Mother Nature's not always going to do what you want.
Yeah, similar to where you are now, you never know if the marine layer is going to hold or if it's going to burn off quickly or whatnot. For example, and I know everybody has said that I talk too much on this program, but when I was in Southern California a couple years ago, Lame Brain Jeff here talking decided I'm not going to put on sunscreen because we were going out to Catalina Island, and the marine layer was in effect, and it was nice, cloudy, and it was cold because the Pacific is fairly cold. The water temperature is probably about 60, maybe not even that. And so we get out to Catalina, and then the sun burns off immediately, and I get a sunburn. So it's like, well, you can't win anything, so.
Yeah, it's like they say, the weather will change sometimes, and you're completely confused. And but you do the best you can, and I think people eventually understand that that's what you're doing.
Yeah, so then there was the time between where you are now and where you were in Florida that you weren't doing television at all.
Yes, correct.
And I don't want to get kind of Snoopy, or not Snoopy the dog, I mean Snoopy as in start snooping around for clues, of whether or not the thing happened where you got possibly either laid off or
Nope.
decided to just leave the business for a time.
That was my decision. My contract was up, and I, you know, had been doing a lot of thinking. I don't know, I mean, we'll talk about this, I'm sure, later. I'm also a singer, and I enjoy performing arts. and I had a great opportunity to. I was working weekends, and I had a great opportunity to be in in a musical that I've always dreamed about being in. And so I really had to do some soul searching, and I know I could do other things than TV, and so I took a chance and I got out of the business. And within 3 weeks, I got a job working in a nonprofit because it's always been dear to my heart is giving back to the community. So that was my full-time job, but I was very involved with the media, and I did my play. And I think after about 8 months of that, I realized that I wanted to get back in, and that kind of is why I'm here today.
The musical, by the way, was Grease, where she played Rizzo, right?
Yes.
So she doesn't. If you look at her picture, she doesn't look like a Rizzo. She looks more beautiful than Rizzo.
Oh, thank you so much.
I mean well, it makes me when I'm trying to connect the Grease the play to Grease the movie, which is nothing like the play, because there's extra stuff in. Now we're getting off the weather thing, but I'd get on this because this involves you. The play Grease, which I've seen as a play, and on the of course the movie, they're not the same. They're close, but not quite.
You're right. It's completely different. Broadway versions are normally different than movies, and you'll notice that in a lot of things. The Phantom of the Opera was made into a movie. Cats, Les Mis. I mean, there's a lot of things that are so different because when you write a play, some of the stuff isn't the same as you would do it in, say, a movie or a TV series. And it was kind of tough for me to learn how to do that, but in the end, it was really cool to see a completely different way. And I take pride in that play because I was one of the only senior members, I guess you could say, and out of the Pink Ladies, I was the only one that wasn't a teenager. So I was pretty honored to be considered looking like a teenager at age 28.
Well, I mean, they love to say, "Oh, you're that old? You don't look it," or something. At least that compliments you more, and that could be used for saying that you look younger than you are. So you could say, "Well, we can put you anywhere." So it's another marketable thing for you.
Well, especially for women in this business. I mean, it's no shocker that, women get to a certain age, and unless you're a Diane Sawyer or, a Katie Couric, if you're not that and you're in a non-national market, there's going to be other talent that's going to come in and they could take your job. I mean, it's not easy being a woman in a television business, no matter how smart and talented you are.
And even in the field like weather, for example. I
Hmm.
mean, I think one of your Valpo alums, Ginger Z, is trying to break that barrier at this.
Correct.
So, I mean, I think that's been a problem that especially women and minorities are having problems getting in, or they're being kind of weighted down or some such thing.
Yeah, as women, we've always struggled. You look at history, we struggle with the right to vote, we struggle with the right to be independent, and nowadays, women are really starting to break those barriers down, and for years in the television business, it was always like the anchor man. The woman was always viewed as not as serious or as smart as the others in the business, and I think, as time goes on, we're given more and more opportunities to put our feet down and say, yes, we are scientists too. And I know what I'm talking about, and just because I'm a pretty face doesn't mean I can't do a good job.
Yeah, because you didn't go to school for so many years just to be a pretty face, more or less.
Correct. I mean, I do enjoy performing arts on the side, but I also enjoy the art of being a scientist, and I don't think a pretty woman should be looked down on if she has a degree in meteorology. Because there are women that don't have a degree that do the weather, and I think it's unfortunate because, I mean, it's like good for them, but to call them, a meteorologist or somebody in the, doing the weather and just reading stuff, I think it's offensive in a way.
And you run into that in other countries that they just they just have weather people and they just throw them out there just for people, more mainly men, to go all gooey goggy whatever, and they're not paying attention. And I don't think the woman in other countries would know. And I'm speaking mainly of a certain country just south of where you are, Mexico, that I've seen where a lot of the women down there, I don't think they could tell you what a cloud is.
Right.
I'm not trying to be kind of sexist, but and it used to be even 30, 40 years ago, you'd have weather girls. They called them weather
Yeah.
girls, which sounds like a term that you'd want to slap that term in the face, because that just sounds degrading. When most
It's
of the
very
time, the weather girl, I think in some cases knew what she was talking about, but I don't think if you get her into a thing where you put her in like severe weather coverage, she would not be able to do that back then.
yes. I mean, I think regardless of how we're viewed, it's always going to be a struggle until you have the women that will stand up and say, I'm not a weather girl, I'm a scientist, I have a degree. And, not that I'm saying I'm a better person than a weather anchor, but I went to school, I have a degree, I studied this. I mean, it's like somebody that knows a lot about the common cold, but to go to them instead of a doctor, or to say that they are more qualified than a doctor, I don't think that's a fair argument.
Yeah. So then we would get to the point of when you got back into the business, that how you got from where you were in Florida all the way to California. I'm sure that was kind of a surprise of jumping pretty far away from where you were.
Oh yeah.
'Cause-
But I'm kind of always been the adventure seeker, and so, I've always loved California. I came out here for family weddings, and I just loved it out here. And so I know the weather is not as exciting as other places I've worked, but I still wanted the opportunity to learn about fog. I mean, I had some fog in Florida, but again, I'm expanding. I mean, I can proudly say now that I've worked in almost every type of climate, except like the tundra, but I think anybody can forecast that.
yeah, go to Anchorage and you'd probably not have fun.
Right.
But then the thing would be, and I could see one place you could probably go. We're now thinking of the future. One place you probably, because you've in South Dakota you had some severe weather, Florida you had some, but you probably haven't. And I'm not trying to downgrade this. You would have to probably go. The only market you'd probably have to go to is a place that has a lot of severe weather, and that would probably be the full-fledged end, unless you wanted to go to Hawaii.
I'd
Hawaii would
visit.
be so easy. It's 75 degrees. The trade winds are blowing. It might rain. Of course, lately I don't think it's been raining there much, and it's been warmer than normal there. So,
Well, I think some might argue, oh, California, Santa Barbara, San Diego, 75 and sunny. And I have to say, that's been in my forecast before, but I think a lot of people don't realize that a marine layer can be very nasty. And sometimes, even when it looks and all signs point to it moving away, I still have bust forecasts because it's stubborn, it sticks around, and then I'm 10 degrees off. And all of us are 10 degrees off. It's not like it's just one person. So, I think every market has their challenges. Some are a little easier to forecast than others, but, regardless, if you're a meteorologist, I mean, if you're going to be on the news, your job is to serve the public, or even the National Weather Service. And there's always going to be a need. I mean, you have farmers that are, like, I'm dealing with a drought right now. And it may seem easy, but I have to still get the best weather and the best updates to our farmers and to our cattlemen and women, because they have livestock that rely on water. And here we are in the middle of a drought, and it's still just as important as a tornado warning to some of these entrepreneurs.
and it's fairly bad. I believe it's an exceptional drought or extreme drought, one of the two. I think It might be exceptional drought. I know quite a bit of the state is in exceptional or extreme drought. And now I'm not hearing anything. Oh, is this going to be a fun episode, everybody? There goes the spotty solar storm cell coverage again. So bear with us as we're waiting for the spotty cell coverage to return. But I will mention up here in Iowa, we were somewhat dry up here, but we've gotten enough rain now that most of the dry weather is gone now. So I'm just waiting for either Meredith to come back or me to start doing dancing or me inviting some 500 other people, which would be fun. Or there was an earthquake. Who knows? Maybe it was me this time. I don't think so.
Solar storm, I guess it's got to be because I still have my connection. Here we go again.
Yeah, because you're now in here twice, which is funny. Is funny now. Now 2 is better than 1 now.
It's the good and evil Meredith.
Yeah, the other one left. So.
Okay.
So yeah, we were talking about the drought when the solar storm decided to. We picked the best times when
I was gonna say.
Because a month ago when we had you scheduled, I had internet outages so bad that they had to replace like lots of stuff here, and then now we have to have the solar storm because we're expecting. And before we get back to the drought in California, we're going to have the aurora is possible this far south, at least in Iowa. Of course, being in the central coast of California, you're probably not going to see it that far south in latitude, but we probably will here if it gets to clear out a little more. It was starting to clear at sunset now that the sun has gone down. So I'd have to look to see because we have our people that work in our storm chasers are now going aurora chasing tonight. So
have fun.
Yeah, we're gonna. I was talking with one of them earlier, and they're gonna be wearing pretty much winter clothes going out doing it. So anyway, now we go back to the drought. Most of California, I believe, is an exceptional or extreme drought. I think D3 or D4.
Yes.
And I would assume that covers pretty much most of the viewing area that you cover.
I think we're all in the exceptional. We're in the worst category possible, and we've
D4.
been that way. The D4, correct? And yeah, it's not good. I mean, we have lakes that have 2 years on them. We've already had to reduce. We have level 2 and 3 drought, which is just, you have to cut back and whatnot. So it's pretty serious here, and I think people are really starting to realize it because they are starting to cut back. But I think the rest of the nation doesn't realize how serious it is when your precious supply is dwindling, and we don't get the snow, we don't get the rain, we don't get that sort of stuff that could help build it back up. And until we get something, we're in pretty big trouble here.
And so when you have stuff like that, it's almost like any time a storm is coming, which seems like it's going to be a while because it's going to probably be, the latter half of fall before you finally start getting some storms that at least come down to the central coast?
I mean, absolutely. And this El Nino has been disappointing. At one point it looked like it'd be a good one, and now we're back to being weak and moderate, and that doesn't guarantee anything. I mean, yes, the waters have been warmer. We've seen more storms in the Pacific, but they're not doing anything for us. And so we sit here and pray, and we have people, we joke about doing rain dances all the time, but I mean, I'm looking at clear blue skies right now, and it's like I feel like I'm in Groundhog Day sometimes.
it's interesting to note because this is similar to the drought we had 2 years ago, where we had several places in Iowa that had D4 drought. We had corn crops that died, soybeans that died. Everything was it was 100 degrees for many days. But it seems like when we have a drought in Iowa or in the Midwest in turn, and you would know this from being at Valpo and then growing up in Ohio, that droughts here don't seem to last long. Maybe a year or two. In California, they seem to last 5, 6, 7, 8 years or more in some cases. And there's been droughts out in the West that have been a decade or more now.
Yeah, it's not a good time, and you know, I think until you're in it, you don't really realize it. Like, I lived near a lake my whole life, and now it's like we live near the ocean, but it's like that's not drinkable water, and we have a desalination plant that we're trying to get back up and running, but you know, it's things you don't think about until you're actually in the area looking at it. You know, just like when people are at serious flooding or serious freezing, you know, it's definitely, it keeps it interesting for me on that level, if that makes sense.
And then we bring up when we bring up the salt water that's turning into fresh water, you have the infamous radioactive waste
Right.
that's coming in the Pacific that's going to slam into the West Coast in a year or two, which may more or less mean that all that water that's out there will be undrinkable anyway. I'd assume.
I mean, I wouldn't want to drink radioactive water. I don't care if it's filtered or not.
But would that be even more concerning that now you have an ocean that you can't even use that either?
It gets more interesting by the day, doesn't it?
It gets you to the point of where's the nearest plane out of here? Because I can't see where it's going to get better. It seems like if it's one thing, it's another. I mean, there's a big ocean you could take water from if you take out the salt, but now there's radioactive material in it. So you can't win on anything, it seems like.
Well, we have good wine.
That might be, yeah, but and then the grapes won't work, and then all you'll have is raisins.
Well, then Raisin Bran will be abundant, so gotta look at the glass half full.
Well, I think the thing could be that, and we're kind of going off topic, but whereas if this drought continues, the wine industry in California could be superseded by the wine industry in the Midwest, which is growing exponentially right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wineries around here. There's one actually in the town I live in, and there's several out in the country. It's surprising that I think this area, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin area, is I think the second largest in the country now behind California. And so another few years of drought in California and will end up becoming number one, which is going to be kind of weird.
Yeah, I
So
mean, yeah, completely different. So it'll definitely be an interesting thing to watch, that's for sure.
now I would assume that the main bugaboo of weather there would be the marine layer because the water temperature in around the central coast is roughly most of the time of the year it's roughly within about 5 or 10 degrees of any time of the year, say 56 to 62, something like that.
Yeah, you know, I mean, like right now we're in the 80s today, which is above normal, and you know, it's like we get into the 70s and we get closer to normal, but still, I mean, that's pretty warm for most people, especially people visiting.
So when you have the marine layer, which is pretty much you have this cold water or cool water over warm air,
Correct.
and then it just doesn't want to move. I mean, if there's no wind, and from what I can think, I don't think there's much. You'd get some, but not a whole lot. I mean, the marine, you could be right along the coast and it's cloudy, dreary, and like 65. You go maybe a mile or two inland, it's 80 degrees. That would drive me
Exactly.
nuts.
I mean, and that is mostly for our northern viewing area in San Luis Obispo County because you'll have Pismo Beach, Morro Bay, in the upper 60s to low 70s. You just go about 20 to 30 minutes east to Paso Robles and Atascadero, and they're in the triple digits today. I mean, it's incredible.
Doesn't that make you want to find a better market that has like normal, like 5 degrees spread, not 50? That drive me nuts. I mean, I assume it's one of the kind of the quirks of California. I don't care. Like Los Angeles has the same problem just down the coast. I mean, you have Los Angeles, you have Orange County, you have the mountains, you have the hills, you have the deserts. And there you have mountains, you have the coast, you have the inland areas. And you could go from 65 to 105, like you did today.
Yes.
So, and I know you have, because you don't do just like here's the 7-day forecast, that's the end. You have to do a 7-day forecast for separate places because the weather is separate in other areas. You're not going to get the same temperatures in Santa Barbara that you would in Santa Maria or in Paso Robles or anywhere else.
Do you know how many 7 days I have to do every morning with my coworker? 8.
8? I
Yes.
saw 4 once, but I did 8. Jiminy.
Oh, there's 8. Yeah,
drive me
we do
nuts.
8 between our 3 stations. We have 8 7 days.
Well, different graphics though.
Oh, correct. Yeah, they're different graphics, but we have to forecast for 8 7 days every day.
That would make me pull my hair out.
Well, because we have several stations. The morning meteorologist for the other station and we collaborate. So we work together, we do our forecasts, and then we kind of split the duties, and one works on the 7 days and the other one works on the other graphics. So it's kind of a team effort for us, which I think is how we make it possible. But we're also in at 2:30 a.m. every morning, so.
And because you are at you're at KEYT mostly.
Yeah, I'm the morning meteorologist on KEYT, and I'm also now the morning meteorologist for Fox 11.
And those are both in Santa Barbara, and the other one is in Santa Maria.
They're all based out of our station, but the other one is more typically tied into the Central Coast, KCOY, the CBS affiliate.
Okay. I'm finding out more about Central California, the Central California coast, than I'd want to know. Except for the fact that when you talk about traffic, then Meredith gets the giggles about the traffic reports half the time.
Yeah, sometimes there's just things on those traffic reports. It's interesting now that I have to do traffic too. Again, going back to wearing hats is the first time I've done traffic, so there's another thing to add to my resume that I've done literally everything but sports, except when I add my sports opinion about my teams. But the things the CHP, our Highway Patrol reports, deer running through median, dogs on road, donkey lost on bridge. I mean, I read that stuff, and then I have to literally go live and report some of it, and I can't contain. It's funny. One time there was a naked man, it said, running down the 101. I'm like, I don't even know how I can say that on air without losing it.
I mean, it gets to the point that what haven't you seen yet that with traffic? Because I think there's a lot of markets that have the weather person do also the traffic, because the Santa Barbara market is medium to small. I wouldn't call it tiny, but it's a small to medium-sized market. More
right.
I'd have to go and look at what the DMA rankings that came out yesterday. I think
we're 123. 123 here.
Yeah, I'm in market 90. So, but we don't have traffic reports because my market, which is in eastern Iowa, there's no traffic here. Although I'm starting to think we're probably going to have it soon because the traffic is getting worse. So.
Yeah.
But all you would have is tractor and because there's a lot of farmland here, whereas in California and even in the Central Coast where you are, there's some big cities, but there's a lot of interstates and a lot of people driving, mainly, more or less from what I would take a guess, a lot of them, especially from Santa Barbara eastward, are going to Los Angeles.
Correct. We do have a lot of commuters, and it's very interesting on the weekend when you look at where the heavy traffic is, because you have the people on Fridays, the traffic is heavy coming to Santa Barbara from LA, but then on Sundays, the traffic from Santa Barbara to LA is backed up. So it's amazing how many people actually get out of the city on the weekends
Eh,
and come up to where I am.
So and you do weekdays, so it's not like you're doing the weekend crazy fest of people running amok. And you only do traffic, I would assume, on weekday mornings. But since you
Correct.
work weekday mornings, I don't see the need for doing weekend morning traffic unless you're saying, "Ooh, look, tourists are going up the 101 or something."
Yeah, I haven't honestly. When I have my weekends off, I'm with my friends. I'm with my boyfriend. I'm with my family. I try to make the most of the time off when I'm not thinking about weather and traffic and reporting.
Now, now, how did you get this job? Did they just like you sent out the resumes again, or did you just happen to fall into it?
I had gotten to that point where I really wanted to get back, and so I was kind of just applying for jobs, and I definitely had a handful of interest, and I've been talking to a couple, but I really wanted to be able to have weekends off. I had been doing TV weather for 4 years with weekends, and I got to the point where I was like, if I get back into this business, I will have my weekends off. So I got very selective of jobs I was applying for, and I had seen the one in Santa Barbara, and I thought it looked really interesting. And when I looked and saw where it was, I was like, oh my God, it's on the water in the mountains. I'm going to apply. And sure enough, about a week later, the news director called me, and he said he was at his finalists, but he said, he liked my stuff, and we started to talk. And for a few, there was the whole interview process, and I interviewed with the chief, and it took about a few weeks before he got back to me, and then he had offered me the job. So it was kind of weird because I had to decide, do I want to get back into this business or stay here? And I just, kind of went with my gut, and it's the best decision I think I could have ever made.
So where do you see yourself in, say, a couple of years from now?
When I was younger, I would have, said, oh my gosh, New York, LA, and I still think that, but I've learned now in the business, you have your sights set on places and you set your goals, but life changes so much. You really never know, because you may think you want to be in one place, and then next thing you know, a station calls you on the completely other side of the country, and next thing you know, you're in a completely different market. I definitely, see myself doing mornings, whether it's here, or whether it's, in San Francisco or Los Angeles. I mean, I love Denver. Denver, I've loved it since the day I worked in Rapid City and drove out to Denver to visit it because it was the biggest city close by. And so I would love to go to Denver. I love Chicago because I interned there. I mean, it always has a place in my heart. So I'm kind of open to where life takes me, and as long as it's a station where I can, be happy and have a great working staff and doing what I love, but also being able to, kind of be in a great morning environment where I get to do other opportunities and be outgoing live places and in a great community. It's hard to say, but it's a long-winded response, but I've learned now that sometimes you just gotta let life happen, and you go for what you want. If it's meant to be, it's meant to be, and if it's not, then there's obviously somewhere better that you're supposed to go.
Now, do you expect there to be more women in meteorology or in the type of work that you're in, being a meteorology slash reporter field at that point in the
Oh
next
yeah,
couple of years?
absolutely. I have students at my alma mater reaching out to me, and it seems like it's a lot more than. I mean, I was the only girl in my graduating class that I believe got into the television business. The rest of them went to National Weather Service. Some got into different businesses. So, and now it's like I have several from the same graduating class reaching out to me. So I already see an increase. But, you know, for those girls, I think they need to know that it's just going to get more competitive, because I think a lot of it now with Ginger Z really being the role model and setting the trend for women, I think a lot of younger girls now are going to want to go for that. So it's going to get very competitive, I think, especially for those college seniors that are going to be trying to get that place in the gig. And like I did, you just got to network and you got to reach out and, you know, not be afraid to go to that first job somewhere you never knew existed.
Yeah, you can't be on the thing of saying you're immediately going to go to Los Angeles or Houston,
Right.
or because because people, I think, have the idea, well, I'm going to go here and I don't want to go anywhere else. Well, when I was in meteorology back when way back when, and unfortunately I couldn't graduate because of calculus, my goal was not Houston, Los Angeles, whatever. It was a bunch of small markets because I knew that's where I would end up if I was going to go into TV at that time. So I always set the bar low. So you can set the bar high after. You just have to get in
Yeah.
first. No matter if you're a woman or a man, you can't just set the bar clear up here, because if you do, you'll be disappointed.
And I agree with you 100% on that. Like you, when I was a senior, you know, I'd interned at WGN. I had that taste of the top 3 market in the country. I wanted to work in Chicago. I, you know, was networking with Ginger Z and Amy Freeze, who is in New York. And, you know, as a young pup in the business, your eyes glow and they're bigger than your stomach. And it's like you really want that opportunity. But then you realize there's a lot that it takes to get into the business. You have to pay your dues. And you know, there are those select few that may get lucky, but you know, you almost wonder, you know, if they really are ready for it, because looking back, I would have not been ready to go from Rapid City, South Dakota to Chicago or New York. I mean, and I'm still learning now, and I'm going on my 6th year in this business, and you really need to network. You really need to gain respect, and you need to learn your style and who you are, because I think when you get right out of college, I mean, you're excited, but you gotta keep your options open, and I think that's the best advice I could give kids that are in seniors and juniors right now is, like, I wanted to stay in Ohio because I'm from Ohio. I wanted to stay in the Midwest. Look at me now. I lived in South Dakota, Florida, and now California. What a awesome ride it's been so far.
Yeah, all you have to do is end up in another country.
Hey, if
I,
they wanted me to do the weather in England, I mean, I think I can put on a pretty good British accent if I really wanted to.
it is interesting that our guest last week, who's a BBC weather presenter, but he's contracted out to the BBC by the Met Office. So he actually works for the Met Office. What
Hmm.
was interesting about him, he actually worked for 4 years in the United States in Montana,
Wow.
and then went back because he had come to the United States to do, I don't remember what it was, and he decided he wanted to do weather, and he actually started applying, and he got a job in Great Falls, Montana, and stayed there for 4 years with a British
Wow.
accent, and then he went back to England. So you could end up pretty much about anywhere English speaking, unless you wanted to start learning Spanish, then you could end up who knows where.
Telemundo? Yeah, you never know.
So before we get off, because you'll have to sing after,
Of
we'll do
course.
our we'll do our shout outs, which would be shouting out anybody, anything, any book, anything related to whatever. We don't I so I'll start out because I didn't tell you about this. But I'll probably shout out, what should I shout out? I don't want to shout out this cold weather because it's annoying. But I'll shout out all the people that I've emailed over the last couple of months that have not responded to me because it's getting annoying. But we're doing okay with this program right now. I need to start shouting out people that want to co-host this for a while. So, but anyway, but I'll shout out all the one books which I'll mention in a post if I ever get these posts done, because we're so far behind on posts for doing this program. The books, the Jackson series books, it's a trilogy that was mentioned during the Tim Heller when he was on a couple of weeks ago, and I'll mention that I did some book reviews on that a couple of months ago, in fact a couple of years ago, and I'll put that up to wherever it is. So that's what my shout out is. So Meredith Garfalo. I was
Yes.
gonna say Garofalo again.
You still
So
did well. Good job.
so anyway, you have to do a shout out. Unless you don't want to, you can shout out Pismo Beach. Bugs Bunny lives there, evidently.
Well, I'm gonna have to go find him then. It's rabbit season.
Oh, good grief.
Um, I guess I guess I want to just give a shout out to the opportunity I have to live in this beautiful location. I mean, yes, the weather's not that exciting, but for being someone that loves being outdoors and hiking and camping and water skiing, I love Santa Barbara. I'm so happy to call it my home. And, I still want to give a big shout out to Ginger Z and Amy Freeze because they were the first females in this business that really, and Betsy Kling in Cleveland, they really opened their arms and they critiqued me and they helped me, and I got my first job 2 weeks out of college, because of them. So, you know, mentors mean everything, and they're people I'll never forget if I did that right.
I would assume you would have shouted out a rain dance or something.
And that too, now that you mentioned it.
Because last week we had 4 inches of rain.
Oh, I'm jealous. Send it our way.
The interesting thing is, and this will be one of the last things I say because I could talk for hours, but we had been dry really bad because our grass had started drying up and turning brown again. It's happened every summer for the last couple of summers, even during our drought year. August comes and it doesn't rain. The grass turned dry, everything dried up. Then all of a sudden September rolls around, it starts raining again. And then it just rains and rains and rains, and we get 4 inches of rain in 2 days. And it's like, okay, where was this in August? And immediately the grass, which had been brown and looked really bad, immediately is now dark green again. So, but
Oh, my grass is brown, so I don't even want to hear it.
yeah, the only thing that I have to complain about is I have to go over to my parents' house and mow. And the year we had the drought, I mowed, and then I didn't have to mow again for 2 months. That's how bad it was then. So, but yeah, so that'll probably be the end. So you can sing and do whatnot. You can sing Happy Birthday, which would be.
What would you like me to sing as the host? I mean, if you have any requests, do you want me to sing a weather song or do you want me to sing something from Greece? I mean, it is up to you.
Oh, you can sing, do a medley of like 10 songs, but we don't want you to have, because who knows, the solar storm will probably get us again.
Okay, I'll do 10 songs right now just off the top of my head, and hopefully you can name them all by the end of the show.
You only,
I've got... Oh!
well, I haven't started yet, but you don't need, all you have to do is just sing a couple of the lines. Don't sing the whole song or we'd be here forever.
Oh, no, trust me, I know medleys, especially when I'm at karaoke with my girlfriend, so I'll just, I'll just do a couple, and, I'll do them real quick for you. I've got you under my skin. I've got you deep in the heart of me. It's raining men. Hallelujah, it's raining men. Amen. There are worse things I could do than go with a boy or two. At last, my love has come along. Should I do more?
I'm going completely nuts. Well, the one was the Weather Girls. The one was Etta James. That one was that one thing that I could. So I was close on a lot of them because I knew them all. And then the one was the Grease song that
Yeah.
Rizzo sang. So I'm not doing half bad.
You're doing pretty good, yeah. And I could go on like you for hours. I could sing for hours. So,
Yeah,
of course, if
so
you want to hear me singing more, I have my Facebook page, YouTube, obviously, and I'm actually a finalist in a local singing competition October 18th at the Chumash Casino. So wish me luck. It's like our local American Idol, so I'm really hoping to get the opportunity to take home the bacon.
well, there may not be much. What, do you win bacon?
Oh no, it's like a whole prize package, but it's fun. I made
Does
the
it
final 12,
does it
so
involve water? Rain? You'd win if you brought rain.
I know that would be pretty cool because I can't make it obviously. So maybe Mother Nature will bless me and have it rain. That's always good luck too on your performance day, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, you could sing happy birthday and then we can end the show that way.
All right. Well, if everyone is listening, hopefully you can sing it with me, but I will do my best for you. So here we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Jeff. Happy birthday to you. There you go.
Yay. Yay. Now it makes me feel old.
I didn't say your age. I could have been like, how old are you? But I won't. I'll refrain.
Oh, if you want to know, I'll be 34.
Oh, that's not old. You are so young.
Yeah. So, yeah, but this has been the 25th episode of Issuance of Polygon. Next week, we're gonna go clear across the country to Maryland, where we're gonna have Dan Satterfield on. And
Oh,
then a week after that, we finally come back to my part of the country, where Eric Sorensen from WQAD in Moline, Illinois. And then we have our severe weather show in October. Rob Rob Perillo at KATC in Lafayette, Louisiana will be on. And then after that point, we need guests. So email me suggestions, iowawx at gmail.com, or tweet them to me at iowawx or whatnot. So you can find Meredith at Meredith. Say your Twitter handle. It's like some weird five
yeah,
letters or
it's
something.
it's through my station, but it's K as in cat, E Y, T as in Tom, N as in Nancy, C as in Chris, 3, and then my name, Meredith. So it's KEYTNC3 Meredith.
And so that's where you can find her and follow her on uh, Twitter. So, and she has a Facebook thing. She has YouTube. She has Google Plus. She has everything. I bet you have Instagram. Do you have like
Oh
16?
yeah.
Oh,
If
she
you
has
just
lots of things.
Google my name and whatever social media branch, and you'll find me.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
the one and only.
we thank you for putting up with us and having us reschedule you a month after my internet problems in August. So, thank you for joining us tonight. Have a pleasant weekend. Hope it
Thank
rains
you.
in California. Goodbye, good night, good luck, auf Wiedersehen, and goodbye.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.